The next thing I'm going to show you is how to clean your watercolor paint pan if it is dirty in the paints or inside of the pan here itself. So an easy way to do it is if you get a paintbrush. I'm going to put some water in this cup. Just get a paintbrush, and then you're going to wet inside the pan. Some of it won't come off if someone put ink or something in the pan that's not water-based, but most of it should come off. And so I'm going to get some more water and just reactivate this paint. And I'm just scrubbing it inside of the pan. And then so now I'm going to get a paper towel, and then I'm just going to wipe it clean. You may have to do this a couple different times to get all of the paint out, because sometimes the paint pans are really messy if the person before you did not do a good job at cleaning it. But if it's your own paint pan, it's also a good idea to make sure that your paint pan is fairly clean when you're closing it at the end of the day. That way you're not having old dirty water and paint falling into your paint pans here. Remember about watercolor paint is you are only out of watercolor paint completely if there is no more actual paint in the lid or in the paint circles. So for instance, this blue is almost out. You might be able to get a little bit more paint out of this, maybe not a whole lot, but for instance, students will sometimes start to ask for new paint pan circles because they can see the bottom, but these still have a lot of paint in them. The only ones that are getting pretty low are the blue, red, and yellows. But again, if you're in my class, in the classroom, I have these refills that we can put in here, but just because you can see the bottom doesn't mean that you're completely out of paint. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna teach you how to clean a dirty paint circle pan. And so if you look really closely, this yellow has some other colors in it, like yellows and not yellows, greens and oranges. And so the way that you clean this is do not run it under the sink because it will waste a lot of the paint versus actually cleaning it all the way out. So you're gonna get a wet brush, and then what you're gonna do is just gently sweep the paint with that water. And what you're doing is activating that top layer of paint. Then you're gonna get a paper towel. You're gonna wipe off that excess paint on your from your paintbrush. You're not gonna re-wet your brush. So now that that is activated, you're gonna take your brush and just gently try to absorb, kind of like a sponge, all of that liquid, and then just keep dabbing it onto your paper towel. And you're basically painting out that excess color onto your paintbrush. So now it's a little bit cleaner. And so I like to do this with all of my paints if they're dirty, because you don't want to have cross-contamination in your colors. So again, the top of this lid is very dirty, and so I'm gonna clean that again for you real quick so you can see. I have a wet paintbrush, and now I'm just adding water to the lid. Another thing you can do is actually run the lid under the water, but you just have to be very careful not to wash the water over your watercolor paint because you don't want to waste and run all your paint down the drain. Now it's fairly clean.